Hello my friend, this is my modded Minecraft world in 2025. Look at the gorgeous shaders, look at the volumetric clouds, look at the render distance, it's beautiful. But today I'm playing modded Minecraft on a version that came out when I was 5 years old, before Paul Soares Jr.'s very first Minecraft video, before the Nether, before the End, before shields, before Elytra, villages, before the invention of fire itself. I spawned in a mountainous biome, and the sight of this terrain really brought back some memories, even though I think it's kind of ugly nowadays. I started how every Minecraft player starts, and I punched a giant tree with my bare fist. You'll notice that this mod changes the inventory a little bit. You'll see that there are extra slots on the right. One for jewelry, one for a quiver or a back slot, a shield, some kind of trinket, and even an offhand. I'm playing this mod blind, so everything that you're seeing, I'm also seeing for the very first time, including this recipe book, which is a very handy addition. Next, I tried to craft a wooden pickaxe, but it turns out there aren't actually any wooden tools in this mod, so I was kind of stumped for a little bit. Then I saw what you all probably saw from the very beginning, which is the game telling me to grab some rocks from the ground. So I did that. And then I tried to craft a pickaxe with said rocks, and it still didn't work, although that one's probably on me. Then I finally thought to combine the rocks into cobblestone, and then you can, of course, make a pickaxe. I saw a dungeon a few minutes earlier, so I decided to check it out and see what the mobs were like. And it turns out, in this version, the skeletons don't have ridiculous aimbot, so they're actually not hard to deal with at all. And I'm a pro at dodging, so that helps. It would be very embarrassing if I died to one of these. Right? Anyways, I headed further into the dungeon, and down this winding staircase, and that's when I remembered that spiders in this game have horrid hitboxes and can hit you through a floor. But I'm a professional gamer, so I handled them with ease. The spiders can also hit you when they're way above you, so I kinda panicked and got scared even though it was just one spider left. Since I was low health, I decided to head back to the surface and try and get some food, but food is actually hard to come by in this version. Not many of the mobs drop it. I even tried to kill this duck, and it didn't drop anything, which is kinda what I deserve for trying to kill a duck. So I had to head back into the dungeon with only some rotten flesh. It does heal me, technically, just barely. I discovered my first chest down here, and I was kind of on edge considering that I had no heals at this point. But I did find some copper, which, hey, you're not supposed to be in this version. And I found a skeleton wearing some diamond pants that I wanted really badly. So watch as I professionally take down this group of enemies. You didn't see that, okay? You didn't see any of that. I think it's time for me to head back to the surface, so I did that, and I started to explore. I eventually came across a desert with a mysterious health bar at the top of my... This desert would be filled with bugs as well. No, seriously, I couldn't get out of my boat. I checked all the controls and nothing worked. I tried attacking it. I even tried cheating to get out of it, and that still didn't work. But closing and opening the world again seemed to fix it. For now. As I walked by, I started hearing zombies, so I figured that the pharaoh was probably underneath me, so I started digging. And then as I kept digging, I found it. Turns out there was a pyramid lodged underneath the sand. The Pharaoh was inside it, and it got the jump on me, and since I had no armor, I figured I'd back off for a second. Then I remembered my professional knowledge of Minecraft, and pulled the old dig one block underneath it and just smack it a bunch. The Pharaoh ended up dropping a copper key which would unlock the chest at the top of the pyramid. On this top level, there were also several blocks of both emerald and ruby. After mining one, I learned that the rubies are used for some pretty decent weapons. Inside the chest itself was another plethora of useful weapons, like this ring that acts both as a melee weapon and a ranged weapon, a staff of healing, and even this Pharaoh's staff that summons these little guys to fight for me. I thought these weapons and items would be pretty overpowered, but the mod actually does a good job of balancing them by spamming enemies at you. Although it is fun fighting all these hordes of enemies and spawners, going through the structure and lighting up all the spawners reminds me a lot of the old Complete the Monument maps. After I cleared out the enemies and looted the rest of the structure, I decided that it was time to go back to the surface to explore for a location for my permanent home. Eventually, I stumbled upon this maple forest in the mountains. Normally, I would never think to build in a location like this. The terrain is rough, weird, and jagged, but it's part of the old school Minecraft charm, and I wanted to embrace that. I began to get set up in this new location, chopping down some trees, setting up some basic storage and crafting stations. I actually almost died to this sneaky skeleton here. I didn't have my spawn set, I didn't have the coordinates written down, so if I had died, I probably never would have found this place again. After very quickly setting my spawn, I decided to go underground to see what the local caves were like. I stumbled upon this jungle one with lots of moss and mud. Now remember your Minecraft knowledge. If you land in a block of water, you won't take fall damage. The keyword being if. Anyways, this cave had a lot of nice building material, like some jungle wood, the mud, the moss. I even found a massive dripstone cave that I would come back to later to get materials for my house. Back on the surface, I decided that it was time for me to make a real farm, since up until this point I'd still just been using rotten flesh to heal. So I made a bit of flat space on the hillside and textured the rock face to make it a little easier on the eyes. I learned that in Infdev Plus, you actually can't use bone meal to grow crops. You have to build a composter. You can put basically anything natural into it and it'll create fertilizer. This gives me a good use of my rotten flesh to turn it into some food that's actually appetizing. So I gathered a lot of fertilizer using the rest of the rotten flesh and a few stacks of saplings that I got from chopping down all the trees. This gave me a steady supply of wheat. And with this wheat, I could use it to make quite a few things. Bread, obviously, but also some apple pie and even pumpkin pie. I decided that apple pie would be my main food source for the time being, so I gathered enough wheat and apples to last me for a while. Then, I headed down to start mining dripstone for the actual house. I didn't know how much I would need, so I mined for about 20 minutes. I ended up getting about an inventory full, which would end up being more than enough. Then I built this wall around my crafting stations so that I could access them from inside my little hidey hole at night. The next day, I started working on my humble house, starting with a basic frame out of the dripstone that I gathered before. You really can't go wrong with just some simple rectangles. It's not huge, but it has enough space for me to be able to decorate it easily. I continued to raise the walls, using the cobbled and polished dripstone to add a little bit of texture. And I'm making sure that I'm using different heights of wall to differentiate the rooms. Then I started making a simple overgrown roof with some stone bricks, mossy stone bricks, and cobble. I originally thought I'd be limited by the small amount of blocks that this version of Minecraft has, but the mod actually does a pretty good job of filling in the gaps and giving enough options for players to use. And finally, I started decorating the exterior of the house. Nothing fancy, of course, but with decorating, a little bit can go a long ways. Even little things like replacing some of the grass with leaves can really help to make it stand out. For the interior, the planks from the maple trees in the forest actually complement the pink walls of the house pretty well. After a few finishing touches, the house was done, or at least as done as I'm ever gonna make it. Although I was happy with how well the modern building techniques in this game can transfer over to the earlier versions if you have enough blocks to work with. Now, it was just a matter of moving all my items into storage and organizing them, and my humble 2010 home would be done. I was originally gonna end the video after finishing the house, but there was one more big thing that I want to do. You see, when I was traveling to the maple forest, I passed a tundra. And in said tundra was an ominous castle, the home of the Lich King boss. A much tougher boss that spawns reinforcements and goes invisible. I figured that would be the best way to close out this video, so I embarked on my multi-hour journey to find that castle again because I didn't write down the coordinates. After about 2 hours, I did find a castle. I don't know if it's the same one I found earlier, but it doesn't really matter. I forgot to bring a bed, but I did at least write down the coordinates so I'd be able to come back. I started by methodically taking out all the spawners on the outside walls that I could reach without actually going into the castle. This made it almost a cakewalk to get inside the main building. I expected it to be at the top of the castle, but it was actually on one of the middle floors, so the fight started long before I was expecting it to. This one would not be nearly as easy as the Pharaoh. Okay, in fairness, I was expecting it to be a lot harder than it was. I did get down to about 2 hearts though. With the key in hand, I ascended to the roof of the castle where the chest was. I did my grand preparation to open the chest and found 3 items. Half an armor set and a life crystal that gave me a heart. I mean, that's better than nothing, I guess, right? But let's be honest, that was anticlimactic. The loot was, the boss was, everything was. So I wanted to find another one. And this time, I wanted to fight it fair. No boxing up like it's Fortnite. I searched for about another hour and a half, but I wanted to actually get this video out sometime soon, so I cheated one in. And how about 2 for good measure? Alright, here we go. Time for a real fight. Or at least one that's a little bit harder. Hey, at least I actually almost died this time. I tried to keep both of them aggroed on me at the same time, but they ended up drifting apart. Well, there's the 2 bosses down. At least I could say I fought them both at once. Kind of. I will say, the bosses in this mod are quite fun to fight, and it makes me wonder why Mojang doesn't do it in the base game. Well, my friend, if you're still here, thank you for watching. You may be wondering, am I gonna turn this into a series? Well, the answer for you is no. Do you know why? I'll show you why.